There's a moment in every relationship where the energy shifts, where the one who gave, held on, and tried begins to let go. That moment is powerful, that moment is transformation, and that moment is you. You see, when you're always there, always giving, always forgiving, people grow comfortable. They stop seeing your presence as a gift and start seeing it as a guarantee. They forget your heart is not infinite in tolerance, your patience is not bottomless, and your love should never be mistaken for weakness. But the day you finally pull back, the day you finally walk away, is the day they wake up in a reality without you. And suddenly, regret becomes their shadow, because regret doesn't begin when things are good. Regret begins the moment your presence becomes a memory. The second you're gone, they begin to feel the silence. That quiet isn't just the absence of your voice. It's the absence of care, of warmth, of someone who made them feel chosen without having to earn it. That's when regret sets in, not because you're gone, but because they realize what they lost. And you're no longer explaining, chasing, or breaking yourself in pieces to be understood. You're not angry. You're awake, awake to your value, awake to your boundaries, awake to the truth that someone who truly values you doesn't need to lose you first to understand what they had. That's not love, that's comfort, and you were never born to be someone's emotional safety net. This isn't about bitterness, it's about breakthrough. It's about realizing that sometimes your absence is more powerful than your presence ever was. It teaches what your words couldn't. It creates a space that only your energy could fill. And once it's gone, they'll search for it, but they won't find it in anyone else. That's not ego, that's your impact. That's the power of walking away when your soul is no longer being seen. People don't regret losing you while you're still available. They regret it the moment you truly walk away. That's the truth most don't want to accept. As long as you're present, giving, forgiving, explaining, and trying, they feel safe. Not because they're doing the right things to earn your presence, but because they've mistaken your loyalty for permanence. You keep showing up even when you're hurt. You keep extending grace even when you're empty. And as long as you're there, no matter how neglected or unappreciated you feel, they assume you'll stay. They think your emotional labor is endless, that your love is a given. So they get comfortable. They stop showing up the way you show up. They stop listening deeply. They stop noticing the little things you do. And worst of all, they stop valuing your presence, because they believe it'll always be there. But the moment you stop, the moment you pause the chasing, the pleasing, the proving, something shifts. You step back, not out of bitterness, but out of necessity. Your silence becomes louder than your words ever were. And that's when the regret starts to creep in, not when you first pull away, not when you stop texting, not even when you stop showing up. It happens later, when they realize they can't feel your energy anymore. When they go looking for that comfort and it's gone. When they try to reach you and you're no longer emotionally available to be reached, that's when regret punches them in the chest, because now the one who always made them feel important, seen, and secure is no longer within reach. The voice that reassured them, the presence that uplifted them, the love that showed up even when it wasn't returned, all of it is gone, and they don't just miss you. They miss the version of themselves that existed when you loved them. They miss the way they felt when you were near. They miss the peace they took for granted, and that's not a loss they recover from quickly. Regret is born in hindsight. It thrives in the quiet. It grows in the emptiness where your presence used to live. And while they're busy replaying what they didn't do, what they didn't say, what they failed to appreciate, you're healing, you're rediscovering your worth. You're no longer trying to convince someone of your value. You're embodying it, and that contrast, that distance, that transformation, they feel all of it. That's when they realize they didn't just lose someone. They lost someone who would have stood by them through everything, someone who gave from the heart, someone they may never find again. And that regret doesn't come when you're crying. It doesn't come when you're begging. It comes when you're glowing, growing, and gone. That's when it hits the hardest, because the version of you they regret losing is the version they'll never get back. When you're always available, always picking up the phone, replying to messages instantly, showing up no matter how you feel, people begin to expect it. Your consistency becomes background noise to them. It's like a beautiful song they've heard so many times, they stop listening to the lyrics. They stop noticing how much you give, how deeply you care, how often you sacrifice your own comfort just to hold space for someone else. That's the risk of being dependable. People start assuming your presence is permanent. They take your emotional availability for granted, and before long, they start putting in less effort, not because they don't care, but because they're too used to the fact that you always do. And here's the truth. When you finally step back, not with anger, but with clarity, the energy of the entire relationship shifts. You don't need to slam doors. You don't need to shout. Your stillness says everything. Your silence becomes power, because when the calls aren't returned and the texts go unread, they notice. They may not show it at first, but that absence creates a void, and suddenly they're sitting with questions they never had to ask before. Why isn't she reaching out? Why do I feel anxious? What changed? And that change isn't in them, it's in you. You stop being the emotional safety net. You stop being the one who overcompensates. You stopped making it easy for them to forget your value. That withdrawal, subtle but powerful, begins to teach them a lesson they never learned while you were available. It teaches that effort should never be one-sided. That presence is a privilege, not a given. That love that's constantly offered without reciprocation loses its magic over time. They begin to remember the times you showed up when no one else did. They remember the warmth you brought, the support you gave, the love you poured without hesitation. But now it's not there, and that absence burns, because people don't change when they're comfortable. They change when something disrupts their comfort. Your withdrawal becomes that disruption. It creates space for reflection. And in that space, they start recognizing the imbalance that once felt so normal. Suddenly, your energy feels irreplaceable, not because they've lost love, but because they've lost you. And not just your body, not the presence they could see, but the part of you that gave from your soul, the effort you made when you were tired, the understanding you extended when you were hurt, the patience you offered when you should have walked away long ago. They didn't realize it while you were still giving. They didn't hear it in your voice when you asked to be heard, but now, in the silence, it's loud. The withdrawal that you made for your peace becomes the echo in their regret. And that's when they realize they never really had to lose you. They just had to appreciate you while you were still there, but they didn't, and now they feel the shift, and it shakes them. Your absence speaks a language louder than your words ever could. You may have tried over and over again to express your feelings, your frustrations, your disappointments, but words often fall on deaf ears when someone feels like you'll never leave. You explained your boundaries, your needs, your emotional exhaustion. But as long as you were still showing up, still loving, still giving, your words didn't carry the weight they were meant to, because they were heard, but not felt, and that's the difference. When someone is used to having you around no matter how poorly they treat you, they stop truly listening. They don't take your pain seriously because deep down they believe you'll endure it again and again, but then you leave, maybe not in a dramatic way. Maybe there's no argument, no final message, no emotional goodbye. Maybe you just go quiet, maybe you stop replying as quickly, you stop initiating, you stop filling in the gaps where they fell short, you stop saving the relationship from falling apart, and suddenly, the same person who dismissed your pain begins to feel it for the first time. Because your silence becomes deafening. The space you once filled so effortlessly now feels cold, confusing, unfamiliar, and they realize it wasn't just your words that mattered, it was your presence. Your consistency, your loyalty, your love, that absence, that shift in energy is what finally wakes them up, not because you did something drastic, but because for the first time they feel the emotional distance they always assumed they were immune to. The security blanket is gone. The person who made them feel special despite their flaws is no longer cushioning their mistakes, and that's when it hits, not just the loss, but the meaning behind it. Your absence tells the story of everything you once tolerated, everything you once hoped they would fix, everything you once stayed quiet about. Your absence holds the weight of the love you no longer want to beg someone to value, and the irony, you were never asking for too much. You weren't asking for grand gestures or perfection. You were asking to be seen, to be appreciated, to be met halfway. But your consistent giving trained them to believe that you didn't need anything in return. So they gave you less, and you took it, until you didn't, until you chose yourself, and that choice, that decision to step away, says more than any argument or break ever could. It says, I loved you, but I love me more now. It says, you had a chance and you wasted it. It says, my energy is no longer available to be taken for granted. So now they sit with the silence, they sit with the gap, they sit with the version of you they never thought would walk away, and they hear it loud and clear, your absence speaks. And what it says, they'll never forget. Regret doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm, it creeps in slowly, and it always comes too late. When you were there, showing up day after day with open arms and open heart, they thought they had time. Time to fix things, time to appreciate you later, time to grow up, get it together, and finally treat you the way you deserved. But people who wait to value something until it's gone are always left behind. Because love is not a forever guarantee when it's one-sided, and you gave everything, your patience, your forgiveness, your consistency, and they thought they had forever to meet you halfway. But when you left, their reality shattered. What they thought was secured slipped right through their fingers. You see, regret often shows up in silence, not in the loud moments, not in arguments or closure talks, but in the stillness of the morning when they realize they're alone. In the middle of the night when their phone doesn't light up with your name, in the little moments they never thought would feel so empty, because you were always there to fill them, it hits when they reach for comfort and it's gone. When they need to hear your voice and remember they silenced it. When they feel the ache of not being able to undo what's already done. And the hardest part of regret is knowing they had a chance and they wasted it. They remember everything you used to do that they never thanked you for, the gentle reminders, the way you calmed their storms, the way you believed in them even when they gave you every reason not to. They remember how you chose them again and again, while they were unsure, inconsistent, unavailable. They remember how you showed up even when you were exhausted from carrying the weight of the relationship alone. They remember how you still tried, and now that memory doesn't bring comfort, it brings pain because they can't rewind time. They can't unsee what they didn't see before. They can't get back the version of you that gave without limits. And here's the thing. They may try to reach out, they may apologize, they may say they've changed, but it's not about them anymore. The story shifted the moment you stopped fighting to be heard and started walking toward your peace. The regret they feel is a reflection of the love they misused, not a promise of who they are now, and for once you're no longer available to make them feel better about it. You're not here to clean up the emotional mess. Because you've moved on, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Their regret is their burden now. You carried enough for both of you, and if they wanted to keep you, they would have treated you like you mattered before it was too late. But they didn't, so now they face the silence they created, and the only thing louder than your presence is your absence. The most powerful part of this entire journey is not what he feels when you're gone, it's what you become. When you walk away, not out of anger or revenge, but out of clarity and self-respect, you begin a transformation that only your absence can catalyze. You stop waiting for anyone to validate your worth, and you start validating yourself. You stop looking to someone else for your emotional fulfillment and start creating it within. And this shift doesn't just change your energy, it redefines who you are. You become a version of yourself that is unapologetically whole, unapologetically radiant, unapologetically you. And in this newfound power, you begin to see life, love, and yourself differently. Your glow-up isn't just physical, it's internal, it's mental, it's spiritual. You rediscover your purpose, your passions, and your strength. And while he may not notice it at first, that's okay. Because the truth is, this transformation isn't for him, it's for you. It's for the woman who has been hiding behind the emotional labor of a relationship that wasn't giving her what she deserved. It's for the woman who now knows that she doesn't need to beg for love, but instead she attracts the kind of love that aligns with who she has become. And here's the thing, when you finally focus on yourself, the world changes. The people around you change, the energy around you shifts because you stop settling. You stop chasing validation from someone who took your love for granted. Instead, you start to radiate a new energy, one that attracts only what matches your vibration. You stop allowing anyone to define your worth, your confidence becomes magnetic, and as you begin to thrive, the absence of the one who once overlooked you becomes a reminder of your strength. This is where the real power lies. The absence you left behind wasn't just the loss of someone who loved him. It was the loss of someone who loved herself enough to walk away. That's the real shift. And when he finally realizes what he lost, it won't be because you came back to fix things or explain yourself. It will be because he will see you rising, glowing, and thriving without him. And that's the moment the regret he feels turns into something far more profound. It's no longer about missing you. It's about missing the version of himself that could have loved you the way you deserved to be loved. But don't wait for him to recognize your value. Don't wait for him to come running back and apologize. Keep moving forward. Keep focusing on your growth, your peace, and your joy, because the real gift of walking away isn't just about what they lose, it's about what you gain. You gain the freedom to live fully. You gain the peace of knowing your energy is now reserved for those who value it. And ultimately, you gain the power to never settle again. Sometimes the most profound awakening happens in your silence. When you stop reaching out, stop checking in, stop overextending yourself for someone who barely met you halfway, you don't just disappear. You rise. You don't walk away to prove a point. You walk away because you finally understand that love isn't meant to hurt, to confuse, to drain. And in that decision, you shift the energy entirely, because while he may have felt in control when you were always available, always forgiving, always present, that illusion crumbles the moment you decide to vanish, not with noise, but with self-worth. What he underestimated was the power of your quiet withdrawal. He thought you would always be there. He mistook your loyalty for weakness, your patience for passivity, your forgiveness for permission. But the truth is, you were never weak. You were just hopeful, and once that hope is gone, once the illusions fade, you become someone he never imagined losing, someone grounded, evolved, untouchable. And in your absence, what he's left with is more than just regret. It's a haunting awareness that you were the best thing he never appreciated. Now he watches from afar, or maybe just senses it, your energy shifting, your life improving, your soul healing. He sees the confidence return to your smile, the light back in your eyes, the joy you no longer owe to anyone else, and it stings, because he realizes too late that you weren't asking for too much, you were just asking the wrong person. You weren't too emotional, you were deeply loving, you weren't dramatic, you were honest, and now all the labels he used to minimize you are dissolving as he watches you step into your power without him. This is the shift that hurts him most, not just your disappearance, but your transformation. You're no longer seeking closure or apology. You're no longer waiting for the past to make sense. You've let go of the version of you that begged, and now you're embracing the version of you that attracts. And as much as he wants to fix what he broke, he knows deep down that some doors once closed don't reopen, not because of bitterness, but because of growth. So let him feel that emptiness. Let him sit in the stillness he once created by ignoring your voice. Let him learn, in your absence, the depth of everything you used to bring into his life. And while he's counting memories, you'll be out there building moments, creating peace, choosing people who see you before they lose you. Because the truth is, your value didn't decrease when he failed to recognize it. It only became more precious to those who never needed to lose you to know your worth. The moment you walk away is the moment your true power begins to rise. It's not in the shouting, not in begging, not in fighting for clarity where there is only confusion. It's in the silence, it's in the pause, it's in the decision to say, I am done explaining my worth to someone who refuses to see it. That is when everything shifts. You stop pouring into someone else's empty cup and finally start pouring into your own. And while he might not notice immediately, the world feels the change, the energy realigns. The moment you pull back, the reality he denied begins to settle in, and it's heavy. Regret does not come while you're still chasing. Regret comes when you disappear from his orbit, when your messages stop, when your presence is no longer a given, when the love, warmth, and consistency he took for granted suddenly vanish. That's when it hits him, not all at once, but little by little, until the weight of what he lost becomes impossible to ignore. And that regret, it's not about missing just anyone. It's about missing the person who truly saw him, supported him, loved him beyond measure, you. But this speech isn't about his regret. It's about your rebirth. His regret may be loud, but your peace is louder. You didn't vanish to punish. You vanished to protect your soul. You didn't disappear to make a point. You disappeared because you finally understood that love should never be a war zone where you're fighting alone, and that transformation, it's where your power is. Because while he's stuck reliving the past, you're rewriting your future, you're glowing differently, you're choosing yourself every single day, and that is something no one can take from you again. Understand this, your worth was never dependent on his recognition of it. Your love was never less powerful just because he couldn't hold it properly. He may regret, he may reflect, he may reach out, but you've already crossed a threshold that you're not going back from. You've stepped into a higher version of yourself, one that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't settle. You love, but now you love wisely. You give, but now you give with boundaries. You care, but now you care with discernment. And most importantly, you no longer shrink yourself for anyone, so let his regret be his teacher. Let your absence be your strength. Let your growth be the story you tell the world, not of heartbreak, but of resurrection. Because in the end, this wasn't about being gone to hurt him. It was about becoming whole to heal you, and if he ever gets the message, it will be long after you've become someone who no longer needs his apology, because your peace became the only closure you ever needed. Keep rising, keep shining, and never forget. You were the prize all along. Thank you for sharing this powerful moment with me today. Your time, your attention, and your heart mean more than words can express. You didn't just listen to a speech, you made a declaration to yourself, a declaration that you're no longer available for one-sided love, emotional confusion, or situations that leave you questioning your value. You are reclaiming your power, your peace, and your presence, and that is something truly extraordinary. This message was never just about someone else regretting your absence. It was about you realizing your worth in your silence, your strength in your distance, and your glow in your healing. So thank you for being brave enough to feel deeply, for being bold enough to walk away, and for being wise enough to focus on your own growth. That takes courage, that takes heart, and that takes a level of self-respect that not everyone has the guts to embrace. Remember, your journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning. Every time you choose yourself, you set a new standard for your life. Every time you protect your energy, you open the door to something greater. Keep walking forward, keep honoring your boundaries, keep becoming the person you were always meant to be, powerful, peaceful, and completely aligned with your truth. So as we part ways today, I just want to say this: I see you. I believe in your growth, I celebrate your strength, and I know without a doubt, you are becoming unstoppable, the kind of person who doesn't just rise after pain, but thrives because of it. Until next time, thank you, take care of your beautiful soul, and never settle for less than what your heart deserves. Goodbye for now.